My first name is Toros. Halburian is my second name. Toros Halburian. Born in New York City during in 1927, just before the Great Depression. My mother and father come from Turkey, little villages called Çomaklı and Avarak. Sister cities, they were close to each other. One was a village you might find in the old farm towns of the United States, no schooling, no nothing. Children worked until they grew up. Everybody had a little farm, and they traded. Where in the town of Avarak, where my mother comes from, there was schooling, education. It was a little city already. And the education there was much higher than what they had in the mountains. They were thrust out of their homes during the genocide around 1906. My father was about 16 years old or thereabouts. Came to this country, and the parents had told them, "We got to get you out of here." So they took the youngest of the boys and they sent him out of the country. How my father got here, he never liked to talk about it. It was too painful for him, but he could recite the Bible quite well. My mother, who comes from a village that had schooling, or the town had schooling and some education, but she and her sister Nazik, which was thrust into a barrel when the army or the soldiers came down and was looting and tearing up the city, they survived being taken away. After people left, they were put into a home, a monastery, something they found that was tended by sisters of some order. And she got to this country because the older sister Nazik was promised in marriage to some gentleman who had already come to this United States earlier. And my father and mother met in this country, where they got married. And we were living in downtown New York, and as most immigrants who came without an education or whatever, they took whatever work they could get. They refused to talk about their backgrounds quite a bit. But when they spoke, they only spoke in Turkish, so we couldn't understand it. Because we understood Armenian a little bit, but back in the early pioneer days of this country, or even before 40, 45, 46, if you didn't speak English back east, or you didn't have a darn good trade, you were nobody. You just didn't have it. And so we survived on the menial tasks that my father could carry and whatever. Questions were asked about how I feel about the Turkish regime. Well, there's no pure hatred, but I would like to see some kind of closure, what they call it nowadays, or apology or something. I'm not looking for remuneration. And if they were smart, like I said before, if they were smart, the Turkish people were smart, the government, they would accept all people and their religions, especially basically their Armenian people with their religions. They could become a powerful nation. But as long as they continue on this path, I feel they will never be first class. Never happen. Because